a manipulative world, and it really wasn't who he wanted to be. There was an emerging conscience. We'll talk more about this later on, but the notion of conscience was emerging in him. So one night he went home with his girlfriend or his wife, I forget what it was, I guess his girlfriend, and he woke up in the middle of the night and he wrote a 25-page paper, a manifesto. And the title of the manifesto was, What We All Know But Will Never Say. That was the title of the manifesto, and he wrote it. It was a 25-page document. I mean, it was big, it was huge, it was thoughtful, it was comprehensive, it was incredibly blunt. It cut through all the crap, as you can imagine, and without even any reservations. He distributed the 25-page manifesto the next day, just out of self-expression, just a feeling he had to do this. It's something he had to do. And everybody gave him incredible he was, and his bold idealism, et cetera, you know. And then he got out. And this authenticity, and he found himself completely alone, right, without any support, any system. Laid it all out there. Now, in 1967, with 4-H. Some of you know a little bit about 4-H if you come out of an agricultural background. And I was 16 years of age. Groups, therapy groups, T groups were huge in the 60s. And 4-H, although a very historically conservative organization and so on, they had embraced this. They had embraced this for the young leaders of this organization. So they brought us to Boone, Iowa, classic camp, you know, cabins, log cabins, and way out in the woods, and trees everywhere, and kind of just heavy and hot. And cicadas. It was the cicada season, right? In Boone, in this camp. And there were 100 4-H kids there, and they were going to do these T groups, these therapy groups, you know. Very interesting. And so they divided us up, and they said, well, we went to the mess hall, and they said, you're all going to go to your cabins, and you're going to just see what happens there. We'll just do whatever happened there. We'll just see what goes on. Very kind of like open-ended and exploratory. I'd never been through anything like that before. So we all filed into my cabin. My cabin had like 8 or 10 kids. I didn't know any of them at all. And the leader of the group, very, very nice man, patient, loving guy. But he said, okay, he says, we're all get your bunk bed, find your little bunks and so on. There were military-style metal bunks with the olive, green, drab blankets and so on. You can just see it, you know, and the gray dust kind of hanging in the air where the sun was coming in through the windows, and it was really quite an environment, you know, and you hear the cicadas in the background. And he said, we just want to, whatever comes into your head, just go ahead and say it, whatever comes into your head. And we'll just go from there. Nothing, no wrong, no right, no judgment, nothing. Well, you can imagine what's teenagers who don't know each other, they're all self-conscious, you know. It's like, well, yeah. Nobody said anything, you know. It took Lynn Hinderaker 9 seconds. 9 seconds. And I have to tell you, I had a mental and an emotional explosion that I spoke. It was the most articulate I've ever been or will ever hope to be in my entire life that particular afternoon. There was something that was pent up in me. You know, I lived a normal life, and I played football, and I did well in school and all that kind of stuff. I was just a really good, average, B+ kind of a guy. Nobody would have guessed the turmoil and the anxiety, kind of like Jerry Maguire, right? The conscience, the stuff that was going on inside of me that didn't feel right to me at all. And when this guy invited me, just like, wow, right? And so I launched into this thing. I said, we are sheep. We are sheep. We don't know what we're doing. We don't know why we're here. We couldn't make a decent free will choice if you asked us. We wouldn't have a clue what that even means. Why are we here? Shame on us. Shame on me. I mean, I went to town. I never took a breath, never stopped for 90 hypocrisy. Now remember, this was the 60s, okay? I mean, there was a lot of stimuli going on in the social. We've given away our freedom. That was at least my message at that time. And tears everywhere. Tears everywhere. Finally, after an hour and a half, maybe we should take a break here and go into the mess hall. All the other kids are wrapping up here, and let's all meet in the mess. Dirty corral. That's how these people were emotionally. They couldn't even get out of it. They walking out. It was an amazing thing. Well, anyway, so as I'm working, I said, sure, you know. And so I followed her kind of off a different path. We went away a different way. Fire, you know, where you'd sit around and sing Kumbaya, that kind of thing when you were a kid. There it was, ashes. She said, at some level, I don't know what you crawled into my head or into my heart or into my psyche or. You got to be connected at a spiritual level. I don't know. I said, I don't know. All I know is that this could have been. I just thanked her and I appreciated her comment and all that, you know. And she said, I'll never be the same human being again. I'll never forget this moment. It's the key turning point in my whole life. Wow, you know, I don't know. So anyway, we go back into the mess hall. And to be honest with you, I didn't really ever see her again. I didn't talk to her much. You know, I didn't really see her again. We all went our separate ways. The next day or two, whatever it was, my mother came and picked me up, as would be normal, you know. And she picked us up in the old blue Pontiac Bonneville. That was the brand we drove back in those days. My father had a strong brand loyalty to Pontiacs at that time, and I'll never forget sitting in that blue Pontiac, and it was about an hour and a half drive. It's a long ways home, you know. And normally I'm talking and chatting, you know, and I was dead still. I had the most introspective moment I've ever had in my life up to that moment. And I thought to myself, that feeling that I had when I was sharing this was the most powerful and free feeling I've ever had in my life. Because here's the thing. I didn't care. I didn't care what anybody in that room thought or said. It made no difference to me at all. I was absolutely detached from their reaction. I didn't care what they said. It was me. It was coming out without any inhibition whatsoever. And as you know, we all have masks as we grow up, and we put on masks. We become victims of our conditioning. We don't want to piss people off. We want to be well liked and all that kind of stuff. I didn't care. At that particular moment, I didn't care. It was the most free I'd ever felt. And I thought to myself, this is what I'm supposed to do. You know, we all grow up, we're kids, we wonder when I'm going to be a nurse, a doctor, a teacher. I said, this is it. This is the answer. This is my destiny. My job is to say things that other people are thinking but would never actually say in public. My job is to get a beat on that and say it all over the place. That's how I interpreted the situation. It was a very freeing moment. It was a big moment for me. So I said, I'm going to be a speaker. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to be a National Football League star. I'm not going to be a football star. I was going to be a football star. I'm probably not going to be a Hollywood actor. I was thinking that was a potential. Those two things were my thing right there. I was going to be an actor or a star on the football field. There was really no other choice. I put those two aside that day, and I said, this is what it's about right here. I'm going to speak. I'm going to speak. And I'm going to say things, not trite cliches, but things that other people wish could be said while they are there. Now, I have to tell you that there is hypocrisy everywhere. The next 30 or 40 years of my life, I really didn't speak, with a couple interesting exceptions I'll share with you. But people would say, Lynn, you should speak. I started my own company when I was age 40. They said, speak, go speak, man, get some clients. I said, what? What am I going to tell people? I don't have why would anybody want to listen to me? I had everything to say. So I put it off. I put it off. I procrastinated for years before I finally said, wait a minute, bam, go back, Lynn, go back. And that's what I'm trying to tell you here today. This is the message I have for you. It's called primal inclination. That's a fancy word for you had a feel for something when you were very young. Something was formative. You had it bubbling inside of you. Bruce Arent's one of the most brilliant illustrators and writers I've ever met in my life, and I've known a few. I guarantee you he was drawn when he was 5, 6, 7 years of age. And people were saying, Bruce, that's abnormally good for a young man your age. You should try to do a little more of that. Absolutely, baby. But many of us put that away. My wife was singing, knocking people off their seats with her incredible voice. She later was an opera singer, went to Europe. Right? So we have those moments. Most of us put them aside, right? We don't honor them. We don't recognize them. So all I'm telling you is that what I'm doing here tonight is karmic, right? I'm manifesting a primal inclination. I'm taking what came to me, what I put aside for months, years, and I'm coming back and embracing it. I'm saying, this is what I'm going to do. This is it for me. So I'm going to talk about ideas and things that dig down deep inside of people. Not cliches, not ha-ha, but real things. Because life is short, life is short. Although I'm going to talk to you about that as well. I'm going to talk to you about life is short. Henry Ford, we all know who he was. Do you know what he said? He said, I have so many great ideas. God couldn't have put all these ideas in my head and then have me die. I'm coming back. I got so much to do. I got so much to talk about. I got so many things I have to manifest. That's what Henry Ford said back in the 20s. I feel the same way. But anyway, in our little format tonight, I'm going to share some poetry with you as I go through 7 segments. I've used up my first narrative, and I'm going to wrap up this narrative, this segment, as I've shared this very personal thing with you. Every swallow I'm going to dedicate to Ed Green, every swallow. And so I'm going to read you some poetry. Most people don't know I write poetry. I write most of it on the porch of my house where I used to live. I had a great porch. I have a great porch now. I call it Soul Porch because I want my soul to emerge just by relaxing and quit fussing and worrying and blah, 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 and try to connect with my soul. And increasingly, I speak about this in my life, and it's a very important thing. I'm going to talk about that later as well. I call it juice. I call it juice. I call the energy that comes from outside of us, divine energy, and it comes into us, and it comes through us, and I call it juice. So when I talk to people, I say, turn on the juice. Some people don't understand what I'm talking about. Not everybody does. But it's manifests, and it's a certain type of energy, and it's an energy that's there for all of us to have and to express with, and that's what I'm doing right now. If I were in a bad mood or a worrying mood or dislike being here, I couldn't turn on the juice, and I wouldn't have any good ideas right here in front of you. But I do. I am turning on the juice. My wife knows all about this. I do it as much as possible. I'm going to do it today. All right, so I'm going to read my first and best poem to you. Could you help me here a little bit, lower this? This is a, hello. There's something symbolic about this as well, isn't there? All right. I'm big on symbolism. I really believe symbolism is incredibly important. You know, when you talk like I'm talking right now, the left hemisphere of your brain is saying, he's wrong. I don't know if I agree with that. I'd put a hole in that argument if I had to. Right? And the smarter you are and the more you talk, the more that left half of your brain is doing that. It's filtering what I'm saying. But the right half of your brain cannot filter metaphors and symbols. They get past all that bullshit. That's why if you're in sales or marketing, you know the power of symbols and metaphors and storytelling, anecdotes, because it gets past the left hemisphere of the brain, which is critical and acts as a filter. Thank you very much, Mr. O'Keefe. All right. Now, some of you know that I love jazz. Mary O'Keefe or Mary Thornburg, she's a tremendous jazz talent. There are a number of people in this room that are great musicians. I respect them all. Greg Dress, trombonist in the jazz genre. I love jazz, and I love intermingling jazz with other things that are outside of the world of jazz and pulling them together. So I'm on my porch. It's a Sunday morning, a long time ago, and I wrote this, and I'm going to read it. And then my friend over here, Richie, is going to do exactly the right thing at the right time, right? This is called Sunday Morning Eco Bop. If you like Coltrane, you'll like this. Unseen birds cluck and tweet. Humans triangulate across the street. Clouds boom, there's plenty of room. Gone now, back soon, then gone again. Like the drips and the drops, counter rhythmic hips and hops, coming out the musical spout, an eco beat, a psychic treat, splenetic riff, sacred whiff of eco juice, cutting me loose, nature's notes that spray and play and say, enter the fray. Don't go away, it's time to play. Eco bebop, eco hip hop, eco trip hop, turns me on. Turns on the car just down the street. Time to meet neighbors we don't know. Sleepy kids in tow, shutting the door. Feet on the floor, leaving their scent, following their bent. The moment arrives, the drummer drives. Rubber meets the road. Pressure, diffusion, percussion, atoms blend. They found a friend. Integration, celebration, fabulation. Robins clap, sparrows flap. A jet roars, a cloud pours. No difference, really. It's all the same. Doesn't need a name. The rhythm of life on a rainy Sunday morning. Thank you. And it gets better. I grew up on the farm, way out a long ways away from a little town of 500 people. There was nothing to do. When you're a kid, you get off school and school bus drops you off. There's nothing to do out there, right? I mean, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. My father's doing chores. He'd like me to help him do chores. I don't want to do his chores. I don't want to feed the cattle, feed the pigs, feed the turkeys. I don't want to do that. But there wasn't anything to do. Now, I'd play ball, and throw a rubber ball against the side of the garage and so on and so forth. And that was fun. That was good for a while. But once again, nothing. Nothing. And, of course, we didn't have TV much, a little black and white TV inside, but certainly no smartphones, any of that kind of stuff, no distractions. So I would go to the Grove. Now, the Grove, my farm was a nice big farm. My father did well as a farmer, and there was a stand of trees, a dense stand of trees around 2 or 3 sides of this farm. Now, when I watched TV, all I watched back in those days were cowboy and Indians and war shows, right? World War II guys fighting the Japs. We've seen that whole scene. And cowboys and Indians. That was it. So it got inside of me, though. I mean, that was my emotion, and I would idealize. I was a kid. All boys did that at that age. But here's what's interesting. I would go into the Grove, and I would fantasize actively and elaborately for hours. For hours. I would build forts. I would climb on my hands and knees through the Grove, shooting guns, wartime. I would see imaginary things. I'd imagine I was seeing an Indian. And I'd pretend I was dying. I mean, I know this all sounds regular, but, kids today, you don't see them doing too much of this. And I created elaborate soap operas. So the next night I was out in the Grove. It was a continuation of the previous thing the night before, right? The adventures. And I might be playing cowboys and Indians, and then I would come across some area, trees or brushes or something like that, and it would strike me that would be perfect for a war prop. It'd be perfect for a World War II sergeant, kind of a thing. And so I would change the context right then and there. Say, I'm not playing cowboys and Indians. I'm going to be a war guy because this prop is awesome. I'm a war guy, right? Now, I know this sounds ridiculous, but I have to tell you something. I've made a living. My wife will tell you not a great living, but I've made a living dreaming up ideas for about 35 years of my life for businesses. And some of them are really good. Right, Ed? And so people will tell me, it doesn't happen every day, but they will lean across and say, where'd you come up with that? With that idea, man. We're all sitting around here. We all make good money. We've been sitting here in a conference room for months. You what? The answer is the Grove. That's where I practiced. I make up the company from scratch with none of those assumptions applying. I couldn't have done that if I didn't practice and was forced to practice. I didn't have any choice. Whatever it is, and what they've determined is that you have to practice. Only the people practice. You're a master. You're a master. And I think I might have put in at home. It's about 3 years now. I grabbed it off the shelf when I saw it immediately. America's issue, right? It's not division. It's not haters. And apply for the grants, and they learn how to take tests. Let's just dream up something that we'd like to talk about, or maybe let's write a theme. Let's write a thesis, write whatever's going on in your head. Out of the next generation. They don't have to make up any. Intuitive, it's not there. It's barely discussed. And I was reading Fast Company magazine. I was making some comments, and I said, of all the people in this room, understanding information and patterns of information, coming up with strategies and so on, data crunching. Sense you know what to do, and you make a decision, and you're not afraid to follow your gut. Which of those two things? You have to cultivate intuition and imagination. It's not being taught. Not being. Subtract, don't add. Everybody's like, oh, I can learn how. Just skills. They don't know what's. It's not about that. It's about instead of loading up, emptying out. Emptying out. This be mindful. How to be mindful. Mindfulness is the single biggest trend in mindfulness is Theravada or Vipassana Buddhism. I'm a synthesizer. That's my thing, all right? You know that about me. Everybody knows me. Says, Lynn, Hinduism, theosophy, indigenous religions, world religions, philosophers. how do you like that word? Concretizes and makes the whole picture a little bit bigger, a little bit fuller, a little bit more believable. All right, I'm going to read a second poem here. Are we having fun? I'm a stressful dude. I'm impatient. I'm goals. I go after things. I don't get those things. Then I'm uptight. I'm stressed out. I take it out on my wife. In order for me to relax and be a reasonable human being, nature helps me a lot. I surround myself by nature. I try to get as close to it as I can. Makes me a better person. Mellows me out. I happen to live in Midtown. I'm going to tell everybody right now. I live near 38th and Leavenworth. Kind of a hot little area right now that's becoming a part of a Midtown development and so on. We live near 38th and Leavenworth, and there's a big hill. When you go from Leavenworth up north on 38th Street to a very nice neighborhood there and head towards the Blackstone area on 40th and Farnham, it's quite a hill, and I live on that hill. I live near that hill. And I sit out on Soul Porch, and I try to relax. If it rains, everybody else is unhappy, I'm thrilled. This is called 38th and Leavenworth After the Rain. I thank God for the hard raindrops, the spattering and shattering on the concrete, the release of negative ions, the buttery goodness of water and air melting together, never in one spot, floating and boating down a 20-degree hill that has been roughed up hot by angry motorbikes, revving and reeling, now fluid and natural, dancing with feeling, water like plain chant, unending choral descent, like a Tibetan prayer without pause, imagining change, a passionate cause. Water descends, tumbles, and jumbles, whispering truth, never a mumble, 20 degrees down, flowing complete toward Karma Street, Dharma Street, Big Pharma Street, a lyrical sing-song, a noteworthy wave, descending to freedom, bridging distant thunder above with tiny wavelets below. Nature's mashup at the corner of 38th and Leavenworth right after the rain. I mentioned to you before that I grew up on the farm, and when I was very young, my father had chickens and turkeys and cattle and pigs, and as I said, turkeys. We eventually raised 100,000 turkeys a year. Back in those days, the 50s, that was a lot of turkeys, and he had a big farmstead, you know. And in the winter, in that part of the country, when the snow came, it came hard. You know, there were definitely times when the snow was just pounding and flurrying. Well, one time, it was really bad. We had a bad snowstorm. I was 3 years old. And I'm in the house, and it's at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. My father always went out and did chores. If you're going to be a farmer, you got a chore at 6 in the morning, 5 o'clock at night. That's how it was. And my mother said, why don't you take Lynn with you? He's driving me nuts in here, and just get him out of the house for a while. We've been pent up. So they bundle me up. I mean, I'm 3 years old. You can imagine I got all this stuff around me, you know, and coats and layers. And so my dad grabs me by the hands, and he takes me out into this furious storm. And he's pulling me about 100 yards, about the length of a football field. He's pulling me across the farm down to the chicken house. We're going to go to the chicken house. We're going to pick eggs. You had to do it, you know, every day. And the chicken house was a dilapidated yellow brick building. It was the oldest, cruddiest building on the farm, but yeah, whatever. And then right next to it was the new turkey house. My father built that with his bare hands. Every single thing about this house, I mean, it was really built well, and my dad did everything. I remember it. Well, anyway, so we get there, and he's pulling me through these drifts, and oh, man, what is something? And he gets me we get in the chicken house. And he looks around for a second, and he's looking at the chickens, make sure they're okay, you know. But in his head, he knows he's going to have to go outside and he's go over to the turkeys. You've got to check out the turkeys. That's where the money was. That was our money. That was our money crop. And he was just kind of new at that time, back in the 50s, getting into it. And he was very excited about it. And so he said, Lynn, he said, I'm going to go over and see the turkeys, make sure they're okay. He says, you stay here. It's terrible outside. You'll be warm in here. And just stay here. I'll be right back. I'll be right back. What am I going to say, right? So out he goes. Boom, boom. And there I am. Now I'm looking around this chicken house, you know. And as you know, time to a little kid is really very different than time to an adult, as we all know, you know. And I'm looking around. I mean, probably 30 seconds went by, and I already said, he's dead. He's dead. My father is dead. This is dead. This is dead weather. This weather kills people. He's probably in that snowdrift right over there, and it's up to his head, and he's freezing, and he's dying right now. And then I thought to myself, and if he dies, he's the one who makes all the money and has food in the house, and so we're all going to starve to death. This is not a good thing. And then I thought to myself, well, I'm going to have to go out there and get him. And then I'm going to die. If he can't make it, I can't make it. I had an existential crisis, you know. Well, I'm telling you what, now I grew up in a religious family. I didn't know much about it, but I know that I learned a prayer every night before I went to bed. Now I lay me down to sleep. Right? Many of us have learned that prayer, depending on our early background. And my father taught it to me with great discipline. There was not a night where I didn't say that full prayer. So I got it. I got it down. I didn't know what to do. So I dropped to my knees in this chicken house. I'll never forget the feeling of that moist manure, the chicken manure, in my knees, right? I mean, there was straw there, but it was damp with manure. And I started to pray. Now I lay me down to sleep. That's all I knew, right? I pray the Lord my soul to take. And I'm wondering, where am I going with this? Right? Is the presumption that he's dead, or am I dying? Should I be getting ready to die here? I mean, I was having a theological crisis. I was crying a little bit. I didn't know what to do. But I got 2 lines into this incredibly sincere utterance, and the doors swung open. And the snow and the ice and the fury. And there was my father, ice, snow all over him, you know. There he was. And he looked at me, and he knew what had happened there. He knew what had gone on. And he felt so bad. And he came down on me. I came down on me. And he put his arm around me, cried, right? And he wanted to make sure that I would forgive him for that. And that I would feel secure, right? Because I was pretty insecure. Well, anyway, so that was a moment, see. That was a symbolic moment that never left me. That was in my subconscious, right? Now, 20, 30, 40 years from that period of time, there have been many, many times when I feel like I'm on the ground in the chicken house on my knees. You hear me? And I know my father's not coming through any damn door. Right? I'm looking for something. I don't know what it's going to be, but there's got to be something that's going to surround me, cover me up, pull me together, and brace me. Now, I'm not the only person in the world that's gone through this. We all have gone through this. We all have to find our brace, right? We all have to find our covering, our security. It could be a religion. It could be philosophy. It could be an idea. Ultimately, it's never any other human being, is it? It's got to be something that you believe in, something that you think about. I spent a lot of time in my life, let me tell you, examining many philosophies, psychologies, everything. Looking for something that felt as secure to me as my father's coat was, that cold, freezing coat at that particular time, see? To get me back up again, to get me back up. Now, what I want to share with you is this. Everybody has gone through something like this. And I'm here to tell you that the universe is benevolent in ways we don't understand. Okay? And I'm going to give you an example you are not going to believe. The universe is benevolent, and grace exists in a way that you will never understand. Now, I'm going to tell you the story now. This is from the heart. I don't tell a lot of people this. I'm 66. I might as well just go ahead and say what I'm going to say. When I married this beautiful woman here, we went to Texas and then California. We're going to have a family. She bore children. We had a stillbirth baby after 23, 24 weeks. You got to go 32. Not easy to have a stillborn baby. That's a tough thing. We said we're going to do it again. We're going to do it again. We don't stop. I'm Lynn Hinderaker. I don't stop. Right? Listen to the ego there, will you please? So we tried it again. This time we had fancy doctors in Beverly Hills and Wilshire Boulevard on our side. They sent Angela back. She laid on her back, God bless her, for 10, 15, 20 weeks on the back, doing nothing with her mother. Her beautiful Italian mother took care of her. We were going to make sure this baby came out, mature. 23 weeks. Wouldn't happen. Couldn't happen. You would not believe the doctors that we had involved in this. The incredible technology. They used indigenous medicine on my wife to keep that baby inside. None of it worked. None of it. We don't stop. We keep going. We tried it again. Third time. Imagine the people that know us and say, oh, this poor couple, what are they going through? Holy smokes, in California, and we're flying back and forth, and tears and anxiety and determination and prayer. Third time, got that beautiful baby. She decided to come. Leslie decided to come out 24 weeks. Oh, my God. I'm going to tell you what, when she was born, she was born alive. It was the quietest, listen to me, the quietest delivery room you have ever heard in your life. Quiet. Stunning quiet. Uncomfortable quiet. Unbelievable. That baby lived 13 days, died of cerebral hemorrhage. Her name was Leslie. She attracted a lot of people to that funeral. A lot of people. Some people in here. A lot of people. For a 13-day-old baby. So now, remember, I'm going somewhere here. So he said, okay, look, God doesn't want us to have that way, blah, blah, blah. We'll go forward. We can do that. We'll follow the path. We'll adopt. We're in California. There's smart people there. Attorneys, right? We get our first baby. We go through the adoption process. They select us. They're in Oakland, California now. They call us up. They said, bring $5,000 cash and have a name for the baby. Your baby's here. I'll never forget waking Angela, just getting in the car, driving across at 3 a.m. in the morning, Oakland Bay Bridge with the lights. It's just an amazing moment. You know, I'm looking at her saying, this is it. We're going to have this baby now. We walk into Oakland Hospital. We get up there. We're looking through the window. There's our baby. The baby's crying furiously, continuing, never stopping. What's up here? Something's not right. We get the doctor. We got to talk to the birth mother. What's up? She breaks down in the doctor's office. She's been on crack cocaine for 9 months. Baby's a crack baby. We're going to do it again. The attorney said, I'll take care of this. I'll make sure this happens. I'm with you. You don't have to pay me anymore. We'll go ahead and do this. Okay. Let's do it. Let's adopt the baby. Let's go for it. It's on you, man. He got us a girl. 18-year-old baby, 18-year-old girl got in trouble. She chose us. Great. Talked to her for 9 months. Huggy, lovey, phone calls. Everything's coming together. The young lady has the baby. We name her Annie. We get her day one. I mean, she's gorgeous. She's gorgeous. You wouldn't believe it, how beautiful this baby was, right? And so we took the baby, came back to Omaha. We had celebrated confetti and champagne and religion. And it was unbelievable. The number of people that were deeply and profoundly happy for us, unbelievable. Anyway, so life is good. I'm going to the office. I'm running a big company in San Francisco. Everything's great. We moved back to L.A. We got the baby there in L.A. I get a phone call from the attorney. 4.5 months. She made a mistake. The young girl decided, made a mistake. I want the baby back. In California, you can take the baby back within 6 months. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 5th baby. This is our 5th daughter, 5th child. They came to our home and took my girl away. 4.5 months. Annie left me. I'll never forget the look on her face over the shoulder of the mother, looking at me. I'll never forget it. Angela and I were numb with grief. She said, take me home. Come back to Omaha. Start my own company. Not easy to do. Did it. And we're rocking along, doing the best we can do. We're coming along okay. Everything's okay. We don't talk about it. Got a phone call. Now, here's what happened. A window covering salesman, a door-to-door salesman, out knocking on doors in Regency. That doesn't happen. They don't do that in Regency. Huh? Guys out knocking on doors selling window coverings in Regency in Omaha. Just weird. We know somebody, friend of a friend, Angela's sister and so on. Come on in, let's talk. He's sitting there, he's closing the deal. He says, by the way, you don't happen to know anybody. My niece is pregnant. She's going to deliver in a month. We're looking for a family, looking for parents. You happen to know anybody? 2 months after we came back from Omaha. 2 months. After 5 attempts over the course of 3 years, tumult, turbulence, giving up. I don't give up. All right? I don't give up. I gave up. That was surrender there. Surrender. Now, I'm coming back to the point that I made earlier. Grace. Benevolence. Grace. Out of nowhere. 6 weeks later. Benevolence. We walk for six years. We're walking on air. We're on air. It doesn't matter what happens to us. We got this boy. Phone again. I've got a lady here, and she's going to deliver a baby, and I'm just wondering if you might be interested in another child. That's frosting on the cake. That's frosting on the cake. Mary Lynn, stand up right now. Stand up, my vanilla cream, right there. That's my baby girl. So grace, benevolence, operates at a mysterious, mystical way at another level. You better believe it does. Don't ever give up. But there is a component of surrender in living your life on this planet. You're talking about an egoistic guy, goal-driven, trying to get what he wants to get. I was bent and broken, had to give up. We all have some buffer, something that keeps us steady. We can't even put our fingers on it. I'm going to give you one more example, and then we're going to read a poem. We lived in San Francisco in 1989. Earthquake. The biggest earthquake in modern history happened while I was living in San Francisco with Angela. We lived in an 18-story apartment building. We lived on the 15th floor. I'm on the phone in my office. I'm only 3 blocks from the apartment. All of a sudden, things are falling down in my office. The lady said, Lynn, this is an earthquake. I tore out of that office. I ran through the most beautiful park. I ran full steam for 3 blocks in my suit through the park. People are screaming. Embarcadero Freeway, cars screaming. And do you know what I was thinking to myself? How am I going to tell Angela's parents that I couldn't even find her body? I couldn't find her body in the rubble. That's what I was thinking I was going to have to say. I say it was completely, it has to be rubble. And how do I find her then? This is what was going through my mind as I'm running, sprinting in my suit in 1989. And I got there, and oh my God, Angela's standing there in a T-shirt and shorts. I couldn't believe it. She was alive, and the building hadn't fallen. I said, how can there be chaos and destruction all around us? Why is this building not on the ground? And here's what they said, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, we've learned. When we build a tall building, we put roller bearings beneath the basement. So when the ground shifts, right, the building just shifts with it. It makes an adjustment. We can make that adjustment as well. That's a very important lesson. I'm going to read one more poem to you, and it'll be shortly. I'll be wrapping up here. Richie, this is number 6. I told you before about my love with nature and so on. This is another nature thing. After the rain comes the owl's hoot, quiet, muted by distant desires, surrounded and surrounding, like a thin blanket, slips over your shoulders as you rest on a cool day. Hands weighted on the keys, my heart hoping for an inspiration that is real and deep enough to sit close to mystical, faraway thunder. Crackling, masculine reminder. Thunder that is answered by tiny sparrows without worries, just a stone's throw away. They sense the allure of the ideal, just winging it. A distant train hails and wails, says, keep coming, keep coming. Raindrops in between offer hope and protection like a fuzzy wall of obstacles and challenges that are really pathways and guides. Drops that massage and tap and saturate imagination, drenching fires of fear and apprehension within. We're going to wrap up here this evening. I've enjoyed this so much, and I've gone so far with this, and it's so exciting to be able to be here with you. You know that you're indulging me, right? You know that you're indulging me here today, and I appreciate it so much. I don't know if I'll ever do this kind of thing again. Don't know if I should or it's worth it or whatever, but the interesting thing is this, is that on the surface, it looks like I'm giving you something, you know, but really you're giving me something, and I'm sure you know that. You sense that, even if I can't put words to it. It's a little bit like when I have my 2.5-year-old granddaughter, Linnea. She lives with us a lot. She's with us in our home a lot. And I see her, 2.5 months or years old. They go up and they down, and, they have a variety of emotions. But when she has a rough time, I love to pick her up and comfort her, And she likes to be comforted, and she'll lay her head on my shoulder and so on, and I'll rub her back and pat her back. And but here's the thing. She pats my back, right? She pats my back. And when we get done with all this, she's the one, I'm the one that's benefited from the embrace, if you know what I mean. You probably do. Parents, grandparents, yeah, this is nothing new maybe. But I just feel like this is a metaphor for the paradox that life is. And this is a paradox. We live in a paradoxical world. When we think we're giving, we're really getting. Right? When we think we're done, we really are just beginning. And these are the kinds of things that I spend my time thinking about. You know, we live our life on 3 levels. There's 3 consciousness, right? 3 levels of consciousness. I know you all know this, but one of those levels is so heavy duty and it surrounds us and impresses itself upon us, and that's the external life. The external life, organizing for an event, getting the car gassed up, going to the office, external life. But there's internal life, right? Our internal life, particularly our subconscious. And then there's the external life, way, way beyond the external life, right? Like a spiritual life, some kind of another level of consciousness. But we're right in the middle. We just kind of hang out with the external life and tangible things and our 5 senses. Taste, touch, see, hear, think, whatever it is, smell. But there is that 6th sense. And we all know that as you get a little bit older. Well, it's funny. It's so funny. You either quit thinking about your 6th sense. You just give up on it. You just quit talking about that. I don't care about that anymore. I don't understand what it is. I'm going to put that out of my mind. I'm never going to return to that subject again. Or, I don't know when it happens. Or, you get deeper into it. You broaden. You get softer. You start to flow. You start to feel outside influences that carry you and carry other people through you. And you go, synchronicity, coincidence. This happened, and I was thinking about this, and then it's like an answer to a prayer right there. How did that happen? How did that happen? That couldn't have happened. Where'd that come from? This is the side of life that I find fascinating. And I know that when I'm feeling and experiencing that, I'm in the juice, right? I'm turning on the juice, so to speak. There's substance. It's creative intelligence. It's life force. It's life force. And at this age, I want to feel alive. I want to feel as vital. I want to feel that life force. I want to feel that passion. I want to let it all go. I want it to be juicy everywhere around me. That's what I want. That's what I want. That's just my thing. Doesn't have to be your thing. So I'm going to read one more poem, and we'll wrap up here. You've been very generous with me in your personal time here tonight. This, by the way, is a poem that Mary Campbell, who's sitting here in the front row, she has some wonderful feedback on it. I've modified the poem with her suggestions and advice. And by the way, Mary is a better poet than I am and one of the greatest poets I know personally. Not that I know a lot of poets, but Mary is really an eloquent and very sensitive poet, and I'm so pleased to know you. As I'm pleased to know all of you. Every one of you have an incredible story, and that's why you're here. This is a special group only to me. I know you don't know each other and all that necessarily, but you are a very interesting, this is a very select group. These are human beings. This is what I like about you. Human beings, I say that word consciously. I don't call I think a lot of people are dead. I think a lot of people are dead. I think they lived the last 30, 40 years of their life dead. I don't think anybody in this room is dead. That's a big statement. Hey, how you doing? You're not dead, I know that. You're still growing. You're still evolving. You're taking in ideas from different directions. You're synthesizing them. You're asking tough questions from yourself. You're living with the doubt. When uncertainty presents itself, you don't get freaked out. You're like an artist. You say, okay, now we're going to get down to it, right? I'm uncertain. I'm undoubtful. I don't know where I'm going to go. I'm going to do this. I'm going to try this. Let's put this color on here. Life is art. Business is art. There it is. Let's try it. I like that. I'm okay with that. That's good. Uncertainty. We can live with it. So I'm going to do this last poem here, and thank you so much for being here. And as I do it, I don't have to tell you, this will be number 7 here, Richie. As I've told you before, to me, this is a very special moment. Not be particularly special to you. I wouldn't expect that it would be. But I want you to know that you can when you participate in somebody else's life in a certain way, even for a few minutes, you can make that period never go away. It can be a conscious moment, a moment that doesn't just drift away, see? I've had many moments with many people in this room like that. And those are magnetic moments. Those are moments you hang your hat on, your coat on. I could name them off just now. Boom, 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 boom. Every single thing, almost everybody in this room. Huge, huge conscious moments that comprise my mosaic of reality. And they never happened with us drifting away. How you been? Well, I don't know. I guess I'm okay, you know. Do you know that 47% of the time we are gone? 47% of the time we aren't even where we're at. 47% of the time our head is somewhere else other than what's happening right here in front of us. In fact, when we're at the office, 50% of that time we're somewhere else. We're thinking about the past or thinking about the future. We don't find the current moment particularly compelling. It's amazing. If you're in the advertising business, one of the first things you should do, somebody says, help me sell my stuff, you want to think about the past. Oh, we'll have some cool stuff from the past. Or you want to think about the future. Nobody ever says, well, what's going on right now? It's boring. Now is boring. Now is not boring. No, now is not boring. So listen to this. Subtle transformation. And then we'll wrap up. Now, I said in my promotional material, you don't feel obligated to be here. We're going to take 20 minutes. That's all. 20 minutes after this. And I'm going to step off of here, and I'm going to facilitate, hopefully, a creative and enjoyable interaction and dialogue right now about these topics. While it's still ripe and it's fresh and it's sitting on you and you're in your psyche, all right? We're going to talk about it a little bit. But if you have to get going, totally okay. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to play some nice little quiet jazz music. We're going to have a very interesting conversation that says high frequency. This is my favorite word, high frequency. Let's have a high frequency conversation. No BS, no ego, high frequency. So here we go. Be here now. Change a letter in a word, change your life forever. Take the word, however, with all of its limitations, change the H to an N, a new word is born. Nowever. Nowever is limitless. Nowever suggests that one's point of power is now. Nowever implies that any action that you take right now, I'm talking right now, lasts forever. Lasts forever. Like a stone thrown into a very large, still pond. A glance, a gesture, a single word could leave a subtle impression in another's consciousness that is triggered again later. Passed along, expanded upon, shared with another. Nothing that you deliberately decide to do or not do right now is a waste. If you understand and bathe in nowever, this becomes important in your later years as you count up the moments of your life and wonder what they mean, if anything. Soon, you realize that the moments that count were those rare still pond moments when you didn't lunge forward or analyze anything that just happened in those now-ever moments. You don't care if anyone discovers you or defers to you. You aren't going anywhere, and neither is anyone else. And that's fine as frog's hair. You're just soaking up the energy around you, delighting in absence and abundance. There is no difference and no rush. You are just here, breathing, remembering the distant place that you came from, the distant presence that is right in front of you right now, inhaling the air coming out of your nose, smiling at the crinkles around your mouth, caressing you with aliveness, with ki, with juice, funneling gentle bits of holy energy into your soul and your spirit, remembering your last exhalation as if it were your first. Every atom inside and around you, vigilant, alert, waving and rolling with your breath and your joy, reflecting your rhythm and your rhythm alone, poised to live and die now and again, now ever, now ever, now ever. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for coming. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate that very much. You don't have any idea how much that matters to me. All right. Now I'm just going to come out here in a slightly more casual mode, and I'm going to chat with all of you right now. Thank you for coming, everybody. Greg, thank you, my friend. All right. So, I recited 7 or 8 poems, or 6 or 7, whatever it was. Let me ask you, Bruce, you're an intelligent man up front. You've been paying attention, I think. What struck you the most here this evening? What hit you? What burrowed inside of you? Anything in particular? A rich meal. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and there are all these levels where you're operating at multiple levels, and things are happening up here and here and here and here. Yes. Did the grace and benevolence angle make sense? Yeah, I think we can relate to that. Mary, yes.
I'm trying to figure out what I've spent 10,000 hours doing in my 70 years so that I can do that thing, yeah. I don't think I need, that's all.
Well, that's a great question to be pondering. Think about that tonight as you slip into your dreams, because that's another thing I talk about as we get older. I pay more and more attention to my dreams. I feed my dreams. I read certain things and try to make sure that I emotionally connect with them before I drift off to bed. And then I wake up in the morning, and not always, but sometimes I have incredible, interesting insights. David Thomas, I'm so glad you're here. You have so many things to say. I've sat and listened to you at several of your seminars, and I'm always overwhelmed with joy. And I can't even. What do you have to say here today?
Well, I mean, I'm grateful.
and Dodge. It's all local art. Yeah.
Very good. I thought your poetry was beautiful. And
I don't think I've ever read poetry for you, have I?
I've read just certain things over the years, but we're also on 38th Street, so I felt kind of a oneness. My dad and mom are on 38th Street down the way.
They, you
We're
know.
all connected, yeah. Yeah, and Jason's on 38th Street, so it was just kind of a, felt one with you, but hearing your stories and also about your babies and about your tenacity. There was a lot to hold on to, and but overall, such a positive feel about it. And I believe that you should take this show on the road, and that a lot of people will grasp onto what is here.
My good friend Ed Green here, I want to recognize him. Ed has fed me ideas and coached me and provided all kinds of support. Ed, why don't you address the group here briefly and just tell me what your thoughts are about, this whole thing and anything that these people could learn from you. You're a bright guy, and he's probably the most well-read person I know. He attacks books with the same intensity as I do. So, what were your thoughts today about all this content?
I don't know if I need that. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, I'll stand up. Yeah. I believe completely the feeling of a privilege of being here and an honor. I know when Lynn first had the idea to do this, wasn't anything that we talked about. We will get together on weekends, Saturdays or Sundays, and no agenda, and it'll be like an hour and a half, 2 hours. Usually I'll have to leave because of other commitments, and I could stay all day and then day after day. But we have these sessions where that are similar to this, and we have these dialogues, and I often wish that people, other people could just share and hear. Here we are, right? And here we are. So when Lynn talked about doing this, and I knew, that it was a path that he was meant to be on. And the realization, what Lynn wanted to get out of this, I'm not going to go into the details because it's on very multiple and high and low levels. Low, when I mean low, it goes depth and it goes to the heights. He absolutely accomplished. I'm going to use this metaphor because I go on and ramble about how I've got chills. I'm just sitting here going, this was a great event that he came up with, that he wanted to do, not for himself, although that was something, he wanted to do something for himself. He wanted to do something for the people in his world, and that he felt a connection with. And he absolutely did it. The metaphor or the story, and once again, synchronicity. My girl's here, Kelly, and I was with her last night. We were watching some science show, and they were talking about concrete. And they were asking the scientists, why is concrete, so solid and strong and everything? And the lady did a beautiful job of explaining how everything that you think of, crystallization, lines of stuff, all the things that make up matter is in concrete. There's not just crystals, it's not just solid stuff, it's like all these different things that come together in one substance.
And something came together here too.
And he used the word concretize. Concretize. And basically,
I made that word up, by the way.
And basically his whole program was all this stuff that came from the fabric of his experience, his life, his insights, his reading, and his experiences with all of us, all of you, me, and it came together beautifully.
Thank you.
So that's
I
what
appreciate it. Excellent job. Before we hang out, I want to recognize a couple more people. Jim O'Keefe, his family has supported my family. We've known them for many, many years. They're one of the most loving people in the world. Jim, I love you. Thank you so much for coming, my friend. I appreciate you and every single one of your family members, and Jim, your son, and just awesome. Your children, your girls, and all that. Thank you. She provides my resilience.
Yeah. But the thing is, we're able to describe it so quickly.
Thank you so much. And I have two friends here that are business associates, people that I've seen and hung out with off and on. I just have to recognize this. A lot of you are family friends, kinds of people, but I want to recognize Don Kawasaki. I'm just thrilled to see you here, Don. And I'd like you to have anything that you'd like to say. You know a lot of things, Don. Jim, you've become a good friend of mine the last couple of years. You've provided some incredible buffering for me when I was buffeted about. Really from a professional point of view, has provided incredible support. And theoretically, Jim Barber is a competitor of me, theoretically. And he's absolutely been so incredibly supportive. Head turning supportive. So I thank you for coming.
I just say, I hope you put this video meet people all the time, both with you or who you are, and there's a sense out there that you're like more to the light that I'm not sure how to take you, but come on strong, fine, people cross on that, and they say, I tell them I'm a pretty good interact, and they go, really? He is much different than healthy persona, and I think people actually saw that and had a sense of who you really are. Kind of, people went overboard with who you are. So I hope you do it. I'll do the best I can.
What a talent.
Huh?
What a talent.
Yeah.
I have something to say.
My wife has something to say. Wow.
Well, I've been with you a long time, since I was 23 years old. I've heard these stories many, many times, but never quite this way. For a man that I've known my whole life and loved, it just brought such different meaning. Very touching. I'm very proud of you.